Welcome to the Laker Advantage Podcast, Insights and Sidebars with Dr. B. Well, Dr. Bullock, it's March, and we have a very special event coming up next month, the 50th anniversary of WLKL, Lakeland College's most prestigious radio station. And we have an extremely special guest, the Director of Broadcast Department, Greg Powers.
Hi, Kyle. Hello, Dr. Bullock.
Hello, Greg.
And this is something very special to me because I'm also an alum of the broadcast department as well, and Greg's first year as teaching the broadcast department as well. That was a very exciting time. We don't need to go into that. And so, Greg, tell us a little bit about WLKL in the broadcast department.
Well, that either makes me really old or you somewhat old, one or the other, but
both.
With that said, so we're excited about our 50th anniversary celebration coming up at the student-run radio station WLKL. We went on the air January 19th of 1975. Now, I will say that was before my time here, but we have some alumni coming back for this event that were part of that initial class, and so we're really excited to see them, and we're excited to see any alumni who have been a part of not just the radio station, but of the broadcast program. Maybe they were a major, and that major has changed and morphed a little bit through the years. It used to be radio, television, broadcasting. We've had a few certificates that go along with that. We've changed that recently to broadcast communication. But anyone, whether they were a major, maybe they took a class, maybe they were involved in the broadcasting club, we're inviting them back for this special event. It's Friday, April 25th here at Lakeland College, and we've got a lot of great activities planned. I'm sure we'll get to those as we go along, but it should be a lot of fun, reminiscing, learning a little bit about the history of Lakeland College, talking to some former instructors, and just finding out more about how this program got started, where we've come, and where we're going. So we're extremely excited about the event. We think it will be a lot of fun, and we hope that alumni and community members will come on board.
And what does the broadcasting department offer students who are looking to get into that field?
Well, we offer a lot of different opportunities. In fact, we're coming off just a monstrous open house. We had more than 80 students who were there at our open house in March, and we showed them just a lot of different options in the broadcasting field, one of which we're doing today is podcasting. You know, that's an ever-growing opportunity for students in the broadcast area. And so whether it's podcasting, whether it's being an on-air personality on our radio station and getting hands-on experience doing that through delivering news, providing weather information, conducting interviews. We had a student the other day who had an interview with a band member who was going to be performing in the area. And we've got a former WAND employee, Scott England, who's coming up and talking to us about a project that he's got going. And so we just try to give students as many hands-on opportunities as possible and real-life opportunities and experiences as possible. So whether it's behind the microphone on our radio station, whether it's in front of a camera in our newly updated and renovated broadcast video studio and production room, or maybe it's behind the scenes running a camera, running an audio board. You know, we've got a lot of different opportunities, and sometimes people, maybe when you think of radio TV, you think of, oh, I'm only in front of the microphone or in front of the camera, but there are great opportunities in that area, but there's a lot of other opportunities. We pride ourselves on covering a lot of local sports, specifically Lakeland College sports, and students receive that training, and they're calling the play-by-play action. They're calling the color commentary. We provide a live stream of our commencement exercises in which we get students involved in various capacities there, running a camera, helping on the soundboard. So if broadcast is an area of interest to students, we think this is a great starting point for them.
And Dr. Bullock, what is it like for students to have facilities like WLKL?
To me, I think it's amazing. It's truly amazing to me as I walk through the community how many students have participated, whether they're a broadcast graduate or just taking classes around the community. And one of the things I hear all the time is how much individuals love WLKL because the format varies. So they can listen to 70s during 1 hour, or listen to 80s or hard rock if that's their thing. So I think for the students themselves, it exposes them to that variety. It gives them a sense of what broadcasting is truly about, because they may not get a broadcasting job in the field where it's the music that they enjoy. They may become a broadcaster in an area where they have to learn to appreciate the music that they're representing. So to give that wealth of experience is truly amazing. And as Greg mentioned, it is so cool to be able to listen to Laker games, to listen to high school games, to listen to various local sports or events that are going on. Most of our student events on campus are covered by our students in broadcasting and broadcast on WLKL. So it really does create a breadth of knowledge for those students to have that experience, not just in one area, but in so many different areas, as Greg mentioned, of the broadcasting and communications field.
And Greg, something that I noticed when I was here almost 20 years ago, the skills, yes, are very important to learn, but the second part is the networking. Mm-hmm. You're building your network not just with your classmates, but with the people that are involved with broadcasting in our area. What's the networking like nowadays?
Yeah, that's an extremely vital part, right? Because students want to make those connections not when they necessarily leave here. They want to make them when they're here and when they're leaving. One of the things we've developed is an internship course. And so this is the second spring that students have developed or had those opportunities with that course. And so we send students out into the field each spring, and they're participating in an internship in an area that they have interest in. And so we've got students right now at a local TV station in Terre Haute. We've got students at a local radio station in Effingham. One in Mattoon. And so, we've just got them in a variety of areas and capacities. One student is from Robinson, Illinois, and he has a radio station in his hometown. And it's just been a wonderful opportunity for him to connect with some people that he just wasn't that familiar with. And now they've got that student and they've got that option right there in their backyard. And so that's a really important part of this business, as you know, is networking. And it's not just the internship. It's other situations that come up in our department. I have speakers who come in from time to talk about their opportunities and their experiences, because as you well know, sometimes I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but when you get somebody from the outside and who's in the business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that means a lot to those students as well. So it's finding those opportunities. We're really lucky to have a Perkins grant that helps us with equipment, but also some opportunities for professional development for these students. So I've been I've been an integral part of the Illinois Broadcasters Association since my involvement, my start here, following up on what Ken Bino had done as well. And I've been chair of the academics committee a couple of times, and just giving students that opportunity with the Illinois Broadcasters Association. They have a conference every fall, and so it's great to network with other students, to network with other professionals in the industry. We've ventured into Wisconsin before and had some opportunities there with some broadcasting opportunities. So expanding your reach as much as possible, I think, is really important. And I wanted to follow up on something that Dr. Bullock said about the opportunities and finding students in the community who've been a part or know about the program. Sometimes students come here and they say, yeah, I'm looking into radio, TV, and then maybe they venture somewhere else in life, and that's perfectly fine. Maybe it's public relations, maybe it's human resources, maybe it's something to do in the business field, but the skills that you gain in our program from a communication standpoint, whether it's interpersonally, whether it's public communication, the knowledge base that we try to provide, not just in the broadcast area, but knowing a little bit about everything, are definitely transferable to other opportunities in the business world. So we try to make sure students are aware of that as well, and potential students, that these are skills that can benefit you the rest of your life.
And what kind of credentialing is offered through our programs here at Lakeland?
Well, we'll start with a degree. So we offer a 2-year degree in Associate in Applied Science and Broadcast Communication, and then we offer 3 different certificates that are typically more of a 1-year variety in television and video field production, broadcast announcing, and then radio announcing. Most of our students who come in choose at least the 2-year degree. I would say about 95% of our students, but we do have some students who come in maybe just to get a certificate. And then of those students who get the 2-year degree, about half of them tend to transfer to a 4-year university, whether it's Eastern Illinois University, Southern. There's a lot of different options within the state that we have some agreements with. So from an education standpoint, I see about half the students sticking around or getting their 2-year degree, half of them moving on after they do get their two-year degree. From the standpoint of what qualifications do they have when they leave here, we offer the biggest qualification is we've teamed with P1 Learning and the Illinois Broadcasters Association, and they are offering a certified marketing consultant certification. And so the Illinois Broadcasters Association has been gracious enough the last half dozen years or so to finance that opportunity. And so students complete that training. And as part of the class as well, they go out on a presentation, sales presentation, because that's an area that's really needed in this industry. And then they receive that certification on their, something they can put on their resume. The internship we've been developing, the other day we worked with Career Services. They helped us with some headshots and working on resumes, things of that nature where students can just kind of polish up what they do. In terms of equipment, just having the knowledge, we don't offer necessarily any quote-unquote certifications because students are getting that certification when they're here. They're getting enough experience, knowing how to edit video, edit audio. But those are the types of opportunities that we have within our department.
If someone was in a different major, let's say ag, for example, and they wanted to get on the radio, but they didn't have time to take your classes, would they be able to do something like that?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we could work in opportunities for them within our department. In fact, we have an ag student right now who she's fantastic in what she does and what her goals are, and I'd love to have her in our program even more. But she's done this broadcast area, or I should say has had some broadcast experience before. But whether you have broadcast experience or whether you have no broadcast experience or no communication experience, we have students at all levels and all different opportunities who come into our program. And that's what's exciting to me about when I see a new student come in and maybe they're fairly cautious about going on the air or being in front of a television camera or video camera, and then seeing that transformation throughout the semester. And I always tell students, record your first shift that you do. Compare it to your last one. You'd be amazed at what happens and the changes that take place. Or record, listen to that first production spot that you did and compare that to the one that you did for your demo tape that when you leave the college that I have them do. And so, yeah, there's opportunities for everyone. And that's what we encourage, and we're really trying to make sure that students know and are aware. Maybe you really like sports, but you don't think it's a career for you in broadcasting. Take a class in sportscasting. We've had some students do that before and see what those opportunities are like behind the microphone, because you never know when that opportunity might arise where you could utilize those skills. So definitely classes that are open for everyone, and we encourage all majors to come join us.
And Dr. Bullock, what are we hearing from industry leaders about the quality of students that are coming out of Lakeland from our broadcasting department?
We hear great things about the quality, and I'll use an analogy. I think, when Ken Bino was here, and Greg mentioned started the program, Ken's really a legend in the broadcasting world. And I'll use a football analogy, which may or may not strike well, but I think if Ken Bino was really like the Brett Favre of Lakeland College, and when Greg came in, he's really become the Aaron Rodgers. We've had two legends here, and I think the credibility that Greg brought to the program and what he has developed in the community, everybody knows Greg. And so we've really had a program that for 50 years has had two truly amazing leaders of the program that have really are titans in broadcasting. And I think the students recognize that, and that's one of the reasons they come to the program. But as Greg mentioned, the really neat thing is the skill set that these students are developing that they can take to industry no matter where they go, whether they stay in broadcasting communications or whether they do something else. The ability for a student to interview someone and just use that critical thought process in the interview to ask follow-up questions, and getting those students feeling comfortable with talking with others, because I have students who come in and interview me, and you can tell they're nervous, but but it really is that good skill building that's going to carry them far no matter where they go in life. And so, we hear nothing but great things. And again, having two titans of industry who've been shepherding the program for 50 years, that has made a huge difference. And much like yourself, again, the alumni of the program are everywhere, and they talk and they have a network. And I think that speaks volumes to what WLKL and what our broadcasting communications program has done, and what Greg and Ken have done with that program over the years.
Those are kind words. I might add that I did rupture my Achilles too. So if that has any connection with Aaron Rodgers, then that's my only connection. But
so, and then you're going to quit and go to New Jersey?
Yeah.
Is that the next?
I don't think that's in my plans. So.
All right. So speaking of plans, what does the future look like for WLKL?
Well, that's a great question. This industry is changing all the time, and but as I tell my students and as industry professionals say, the skills you need to be successful, whether you're running a podcast, whether you're streaming video, have not changed. And Dr. Bullock alluded to this a little bit. Good communication skills, being able to relate with others, being able to interview, being able to read well, being able to, all of those skills are necessary. Being able to look at information and decipher what's important. I've got 30 seconds to get this information to the public. What's the most important thing that I can give them? Those are the skills that are still necessary today. There's no doubt we're getting our media today in different ways, but still, there's great opportunities in traditional radio and traditional TV and traditional media, but there's some other opportunities that have arisen because of that. And so we're still hammering home those basics here, still making sure students have those fundamentals down. But we also understand that the industry is changing. And so having social media skills, having the ability to understand how a podcast works and how I can do that even on my phone if I would. When we understand those are things that are changing as we move forward in this industry and beyond. And so we're trying to morph with how that industry is changing as well. But we're really lucky here. Our administration has been really great in giving us opportunities to have the most up-to-date, secure equipment, whether it's through college funds or some grant funds. And students have said this many times when they leave here, and Kyle, you might have noted this, that the technology is as advanced, if not more advanced, when they get into the field. And so we're really lucky to have those opportunities for students.
Absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. Any last insights or sidebars, Dr. Bullock?
Well, Kyle, I want to share a little bit of history of WLKL. You might not know this, but when WLKL was first founded, do you know that the focus was specifically going to be on just fishing 24/7?
I did not know that. That's news to me.
Yes. They just determined, though, that they couldn't reel in enough students or listeners.
Yep. All right. Any last thoughts, Greg?
Well, I don't have anything like that, but I would just invite the public to come learn more about what we're doing out here anytime. My email is gpowers@lakelandcollege.edu. I can be reached by phone at 217-234-5335. Those are also good contacts to reserve a RSVP for our event coming up. The night before our 50th anniversary, we're teaming up with the Alumni Association out at Warren James Winery from 4 to 6, and it's just kind of a kickoff happy hour opportunity for alumni to get together, and that should be a lot of fun as well. We'll be out there with some goodies, the Alumni Association will and their staff, and we'll be recording some audio announcements to air at a later time, and so that should be a lot of fun. And then the big day on Friday, April 25th. We'll have a luncheon that day. We're also going to squeeze in our Broadcast Communication Advisory Board meeting that day. We're going to have students back from 7 a.m. to about 6 p.m., and when we did this for 40 years, it went to about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, which is okay because we have alumni who want to come back and they want to reminisce with others. They want to connect with their classmates. And they honestly, I think more than anything, they want to kind of think about what was it like 20 years ago, 40 years ago, for some of them 50 years ago? I remember sitting in this seat. Now, they were in the basement at that time, and we've got different facilities, and things have changed a little bit in society, but it should be a great event. Ken Bino's going to be here. Mike Brad, who was one of the instructors for a couple of years, who's a legend in this area, will be here as well. And, we've got professionals coming from local radio and TV stations, and I would just encourage everyone to come out. I don't think you're going to be disappointed in that day, and it should be a lot of fun networking and just, again, reliving some of the finer moments of WLKL.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, thank you for joining us, Greg and Dr. Bullock. You've been listening to the Laker Advantage podcast, Insights and Sidebars with Dr. B.